Hi, and welcome to the Ada K Show. I am Ada K. Brown, and am currently a criminal justice major, and I'm a deaf courtroom commentator. Grab a cup of Java, and let's dive in. I just got copyrighted, y'all. Yep, I sure did. They took me down. I cannot believe it. I don't understand it. It said something about an infringement. I don't understand. I thought that as long as we're commenting and we're talking about it, it may have been Facebook only. Let me check. Hold on. Facebook, it may have been Facebook. Facebook is a crazy entity. It's very difficult. Um no, it showed. So where did they take me down? They said I had a copyright infringement. Anybody know about this? Help. I need somebody help. It was YouTube. Why? I thought someone help me. I'm looking at it right now. I can pull it up. I oh, this pisses me off. I thought as long as we are doing commenting and we're discussing it, we can use it. Can somebody help explain this to me? I am not that I've never really had problems before. It's not showing up in my YouTube as a hit. Oh, shoot. Well, I guess what I'll do to save my butt is I will delete that live completely. And I just deleted. Hey there, everybody. Thank you for coming back. Well, I'll just talk about it. Um, this chat I can't do because I'm not in it anymore. Give me a second. I'm regrouping. Okay, for those of you who were just joining, sorry about that. I thought if I found it on YouTube, it was 48 hours on YouTube. I thought that would be fine to show. Why was it not fine to show? I'm pissed. Well, I deleted that video. It's gone. So hopefully that will prevent me from having another problem. So hopefully that will save me. But let me just walk you through this. Y'all saw a little bit of it. So part of the problem with the Simatilli situation is, well, I hate it. It's either in or it's out. Part of the problem with the Simatilli situation is that hold on a second. Sorry, it's Sunday night. My son's playing a game and I can hear him in the background. Okay. Well, I took it down. It's not even there. I deleted it. I covered my anatomy. See, that's what we have to do sometimes. We have to cover thy anatomy. I'm looking for I'm sure I will be getting an email. I'm sure I'll be getting an email about it, but it's gone, it's down, it's deleted, it's not there. I'm doing what I can to protect myself and y'all. But let me tell you what that video was about. Well, I get my comments stopped. I really, really am frustrated with that because there comes a point that if it's on YouTube, we should be able to share it. So am I gonna get a 30-day strike? I'll challenge it. All right. Well, let me ask you, if I got that kind of strike, I wouldn't be on right now. Is that correct? I wouldn't be here now if I had gotten a strike like that, would I? So I'm good. Someone tell me, yes, you're good, or no, you need to worry. While that's happening, let's talk about Simatilli. Simatilli is a twisted little hoe. That's what she is. Wonder how long that's going to take to get. She's a twisted little hoe. That oh, okay. Hello, Ada. Due to a copyright match, your stream was interrupted. Sunday Night Live course stream are interrupted when a content is detected. After copyrighted material no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. Sincerely. So, all right, fine. Well, I just cut the whole thing straight out together so we don't have a little boo-boo. Okay, I'm safe. So, well, it didn't say anything about, they just said it found something. If it's still there, I think we're good. Okay, so Monica Simatilli is a 49-year-old wannabe hussy hoe. Yeah, that's exactly who she is. She is a walking, talking, sex-crazed addict. And all she wanted to do was make movies, send pictures of her personal vajayjay and everything. By the way, I need you guys to sub. I've lost 14 subs in the last day, and I don't know why. So please sub. So anyway, Monica Simatilli is a little bit on the wild side. Unfortunately for her husband, she met this new guy. They became a thing. And unfortunately, they decided $1.9 million in life insurance policy is good enough for them, which to me was a little odd. Truthfully, I'm trying to redo the information on this list. And she had sent thousands of, when I mean thousands, we're talking thousands of photos to the boyfriend who unalived. He was one of the guys you saw with the hoodie pulled over the face, her husband. And there was an escort service page, and there was a all kind of stuff, and they were swinging. So, basically, they unalived her husband, and they've been brought up on trial. But the bad thing for me is the amount of X-rated material that this woman was making of herself. Oh, I'm sorry, I got makeup on my shirt. Making of herself at 49 years of age. Y'all. She didn't get it out of her 20s. Now, she was a beautiful woman. Let me see if I can pull up some pictures. Monica Simatilli was a beautiful woman. Why she threw it away, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. It's crazy. I'm trying to see if I can find some of her younger pictures before she went to jail, lost the Botox and the great hair stylist and everything else. But oh, here's a good picture of them. Let me embiggen it, and I'll show it to you. I'm trying not to get copyrighted again. There we go. So, unfortunately, the big thing here for all of us is the amount of X-rated material that's being brought into this case.
It's a case you
No,
might remember. A celebrity.
do. I'll just show the picture here. She was a beautiful woman. A stunning woman. Why on God's green earth would you do that? He seemed like a great guy. Okay, here's a little bit of a history. I got to do this, tickling weird. Here's a little bit of a history that some of us may not understand or know. Okay. Monica. Oh, sorry about that, sir. Monica Simatilli and her husband Fabio lived in Canada. He started making a name for himself all over the country of the United States and Canada in the makeup industry. I mean, the hairstyle industry. His sister was almost as famous as he was. They went around all these hair product companies that had these competitions where they have the hairdressing competitions, hairstyling competitions, and they would be the featured artist and teach technique and product and all of that. That is wonderful, great, and fine. I mean, it was a great job for him. Then Wella, or it was another company and then it turned to Wella, decided that they wanted to hire him on as an executive, and then he got in a position to where he was in charge of hostessing these events. And of course, he would be featured in these events, and he traveled all over the US and Canada. They asked for him to move to the United States. They got their visas. When you're not a US citizen, you can't buy a car here. So, Wello, the company, got him a car, which he paid for at a discount. They got a house. They were making six-figure plus digit a year income. I would estimate between 100 to 200 grand, depending on the bonuses, depending on, he had a flat salary, then he had a bonus at the end of the year. And the company was paying for a lot of things. So after she decided she started going to the gym and playing racquetball. How many of us remember racquetball? I thought that was an 80s thing, 90s thing. Still's a thing. So they go and they're doing racquetball. And she meets some girls. She meets this guy, Roberts, and they fall in love. When she finds out he was an ex-Pone star. I'm changing the first letter, but Pone star is what he was. And he managed a bunch of Pone stars. And he had a friend that used to manage a gentleman's club in Vegas, and he eventually got out of the business. He retired because they passed a law that if girls on the floor were breaking the law and doing illegal activity, the manager on duty would be charged as well. He goes, I'm out. So he retired. But is it Richard or Roberts? I think it's Roberts. Was very much into that industry. So anyway, in court, they are showing, now we're not seeing the pictures. They are showing pictures that she sent to her lover of a rectum, of a JJ. Every orifice of her body without clothes, some with clothes, was being shown in court. And she's sitting here looking at them while they're looking at that. I'm like, oh, it's like, and then her children or her daughter's been supporting her. I'm like, how can you be a mother at 49? You could be a grandmother at 49 years of old age, and you're stupid enough to send that stuff on a cell phone. Yes. Yes. I'm like, first of all, it's bad enough when we're young, we do stupid things like that because we're not thinking of the ramifications. I would have thought that she would have understood that when you send pictures of yourself through the cell phone, you have now lost control of those images. And now he can reproduce and send those wherever he wants. He can sell them to make money. And well, some of it wasn't so bad because she set up a escort site in her name, although she says she didn't do it. But why all those photos then? I was like, I'm surprised these photos have not leaked all over the internet. So she's in jail. He's in jail. Different jails. She is sending him photos, drawings of all that kind of stuff. And I'm all like, what? Hold on. So we're sitting here and they're telling us that, they're reading these letters in court and they're kind of childish. I love you, kissy, kissy, a drawing of lips with them open and saying insert here. All of this is in court. And she is not embarrassed at all. She's not embarrassed. This is like, yeah, doesn't everybody do this? I'm like, no. Yeah, yeah, right. So they were copying every single, I know, ugh. They are copying every single letter that she sends out of there. Okay. And they can do that. And they tossed Robert's cell. I can never remember his first name, but Mr. Robert's cell, the boyfriend's cell, they toss it and they find these letters and they're intimate and they're going, huh. And the CID number does not match Monica Simatilli. It's somebody else. They have been mailing letters back and forth using another inmate's control number or ID number so they don't get caught and they can communicate. Well, they finally got caught. And during that said cell search, they find a manila envelope with a tube of toothpaste with male DNA in white creamy liquid form. They had to have the CSI agent or the person at the lab whose sole responsibility was testing that to make sure it was his little soldiers. His little soldiers. And I guess because they didn't reach their destination, they got the...
Addy, soldier.
Yeah, you got it, Seba. It is horrifying that she is behaving in this manner. It's a joke to her. If you heard some of the letters and saw some of the stuff, it's a plain down and outright joke to her. So there we go. All right. So this trial to me has gone, it's 22 days, I think on Monday, 22 days, Monday. It has gone on for so long. And sorry, we are still in the prosecution's case. They called the ME and I thought, great, we're done. No. We still haven't heard from the boyfriend. And I thought he was going to be called to testify against her. So now let's switch cases. Now comes the Florida versus Ellen Gilland. Ellen Gilland. Ellen Gilland is like an 80-year-old woman. I don't know, 90. I don't know exactly what her age is, but her husband was in the situation where they thought it was the ending of life. And she took a lead shooter into the hospital room and unalived him and was going to unalive herself but couldn't do it. And SWAT team was called in. She fired one shot that went above the police officer's head. This granny, oh, I feel bad for her because he was really suffering. So what we're going to do is we're going to share this. This I know I can legally share. I know I can legally share this. So we're going to do this, and I know we can play that.
But for now, let's head back to Florida, where defendant Ellen Gilland is about to be sentenced for the shooting death of her terminally ill husband. Let's go back in.
Ask you and your attorneys to please stand while I'm imposing sentence. Typically, I would have you come forward, but I want you to be able to rely on the walker or the table if you need to, ma'am.
That's the important.
So, and I just want to take this opportunity to remind everyone as well that no outbursts. So to kind of reiterate, Ms. Gilland, you're here on the counts that your attorney stated. You've got the one count of assisting self-murder or manslaughter, 2 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm, and those refer to Mr. Jackson, the security officer, and Mr. Aponte, both of whom testified here today. And then you had that 4th count of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer with a firearm. And there were 6 officers who were named as victims in count 4 of the indictment. So the score on the criminal punishment score sheet is 115 months, which would be 9 years and roughly 8 months. The state, as you know, has agreed to waive the minimum guidelines and agreed to cap your punishment at 10 years prison. And I first want to talk about some of the testimony that I've heard today. And Ms. Gilland, I accept your testimony today that you've given with respect to the fact that Jerry was suicidal. I know there's no records that document that, but I accept what you stated, that he told you and continued to express that he was suicidal. I think that makes sense that a husband would confide in his wife of 53 years with respect to his serious emotional condition. I accept your testimony, ma'am, that his condition was worsening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I accept your testimony that you and Jerry jointly decided to commit suicide, that you believe that was the only way out.
Okay.
And I accept your testimony that you do not remember staff informing you about comfort care or hospice. I think the doctor testified honestly with respect to what hospital procedure is, but I think it's highly likely that that either didn't happen or that you don't remember it. Also, I accept Dr. Danziger's testimony that you continue to not be a risk of danger to the community and that you were suffering from some sort of mental health episode on the date of the incident. I want to point out that, as everybody knows, this is not just a case about you and your terminally ill or very ill husband, because we've heard from the fact, from the testimony today, that there are many other victims in this case. And by entering your plea, you've admitted to having pointed a firearm at 2 hospital employees. You've admitted to having pointed a firearm at many Daytona Beach police officers as well. And we've heard today that there were 34 patients, 33 other patients on that floor who potentially had their treatment, their medical treatment disrupted, not to mention putting them in fear for their lives and perhaps their family as well. And then I don't even know how many hospital employees and their family members were impacted by the decision that you made. And it has come out today that you're educated, you have a master's degree. Some of these letters described you as smart and patient and kind and generous and thoughtful, but your actions on that date were none of those things. And your attorneys identified in the sentencing memo a few other similar cases where an elderly defendant had killed his or her spouse in some type of a mercy killing where that spouse was seriously ill. And the difference between those 3 cases that were identified and this one is the other victims. And that's what makes this case different to me. A lot of the letters that were sent in and even some of the testimony today talked about aid in dying laws and how Florida should have such a law. This is not the proper venue to make that argument. I am not a lawmaker. That is not my focus. That's an argument.
Okay, what she's talking about is witness statements. When someone is going to be sentenced for a crime, a lot of the courts will permit people to send letters in to the judge to help abate having hundreds and hundreds of people in the courtroom itself. So you can, and this happened in my husband's trial, where you can send in letters and plead either for or against the person being charged. She did panic after she shot him, yeah, and they're acknowledging that. But the thing is that they had a pact, and it didn't go as planned. Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know how to take that, but I believe that this poor woman was in a bad mental state, and it's sad. It really is sad. But if you have somebody that is going up for sentencing, they will permit, you can send a letter talking about how good they are, or you could send a letter and say, hey, they're horrible. This is who they are. This is how I know them. And throw the key away. So that just, some people don't understand the letters. That's why.
That needs to go to the Florida legislature and them only. Now, that's not to say that I'm unsympathetic to you, ma'am, because I can't fathom the difficulty of watching your husband's medical condition deteriorate to the point that he was in that constant kind of pain and wishing that he were dead. I can't understand that. I can't begin to understand how difficult it would have been for you to actually pull the trigger to assist your husband in ending his own life. I do believe that is what you did. And so the punishment that I'm going to impose in this case is related to the other charges against you primarily. I've heard from the victims today, and I am highly persuaded by that testimony about the trauma that was inflicted on them. So, ma'am, I am going to adjudicate you guilty. You will be a convicted felon as a result of this incident. I'm going to sentence you to 366 days DOC. That's prison. And you will get credit for the 42 days that you've served. That'll be followed by 12 years of probation. The probationary terms are that you have to write letters of apology to the civilian victims and the 6 law enforcement victims that were identified in the indictment. And then this is an important part of the sentence as well. I want you to perform a minimal amount of community service hours per month for as long as you're physically able to do that. I want you to do 8 community service hours a month. So that's maybe 2 a week. And I don't care what you do, but I want you to realize, ma'am, that your life still continues to have value and you can contribute to society. You can even do work from home, like telephone or even via an internet connection. Again, I don't care what you do, but I want you to give back and I want you to enjoy the feeling of giving back to others as well. And then last but not least, there's going to be
Okay, so you want a hard of hearing woman doing things over the internet like on a phone. She doesn't care what she does. Okay. She could read children's books to kids.
mental health evaluation as a condition of probation, and you'll have to comply with whatever, if any, follow-up is recommended. It could just be take medication, but whatever the professional recommends is what you'll have to do. There are court costs of $770 plus $100 cost of prosecution and $100 cost of investigation to the police department, and you'll have to pay those off as a condition of your probation. So they're going to take you into custody today to begin serving that sentence. And again, you'll get credit for those 42 days that you've already served. Is there anything else that I need to address today?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. Thank you so much, Ron. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, folks.
They are so gentle with her. I was shocked at how kind they were. Watch how kind they were. We won't watch much longer, but just watch.
And there is the sentence. Still with us to help break this down, criminal defense attorney Franz Borgart, and joining us now, trial attorney Adante Pointer. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with me as we listen to this sentence. Important to note that, as the judge said, the state said there's no minimum. We're going to waive any minimum, judge, and the maximum 10 years, but they didn't make a recommendation. She only got 366 days in prison with 42 days served. Adante, let me start with you. Your reaction.
Well, they just sent Granny to prison. Yes, Granny pulled the trigger, which took the life, assisted in the suicide of her husband. You know, me and the way I see this, not necessarily as what the judge said, what's on the books, but what appears to be right. This doesn't look right, seeing Granny led away to prison right here to me. They could have given her probation. I think that would have been more appropriate, given that it was an assisted suicide versus her doing something with malice or as a vindictive or a retribution. This was something that apparently, given the evidence, she admitted to, and something that her and her husband agreed upon.
And I think the judge did lean in and say, it's not as much that I'm sentencing you on, but rather the fact that you did point your firearm at 2 hospital employees, 2 law enforcement, and the importance of these other victims. Franz, your reaction to the sentence?
So I'll play devil's advocate, Judge. It could have been much worse.
It could have
And
been.
she should be very, very grateful that she is going to be in for a minimal amount of time for essentially killing her own husband, whether he wanted it or not, in a public place where someone else easily could have gotten harmed. A minimal amount of community service, Judge. This is a great victory for the defense. And, you know, you could tell on her face, I don't think she understood what the judge was saying when she handed down the sentence. So, like I said, could have been much, much worse.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you. It could have been much worse. Theoretically, she could have just been given probation. But again, to have a firearm and a 4-hour standoff with law enforcement, barricading herself in the room, threatening others with that gun, I think that did make a difference to the judge. Adante, talk about her demeanor, her testimony. She, to me, was very honest, very straightforward, describing not only the deterioration of her husband, the really lack of good care by a hospital, according to her, of herself and or her husband, and then every detail of what she did. I don't think she hid the ball. I don't think she tried to.
I want to see how long her portion. Oh, wow. She talked for an hour. I'm not going to do hers. Y'all can go online. They do have her part of the testimony up and running online. So sad to be 53 years married. See, he had bed sores and she kept begging them to take care of him. There was medication that wasn't being given. There was a lot of breakdown in the situation with his care. And it got to the point where he begged her, just kill me, just end it. I can't live like this anymore. And she couldn't live like that anymore. She didn't feel like she was getting any resolve. And maybe they have bingo night. That I'm not going to touch that 80s man, music man. But the thing is that when you're that old and that pain is relentless, well, pain relentless in any age is horrible, but you know you're terminal, you know you're going, you know there's nothing you can do to stop what's going to happen, and it's only getting worse, only will get worse. Sometimes that's what people want to do. Colorado has a self-assisted medical termination of life. And so that's, sorry, you live in the wrong state. But even in that state, it would take a little while for them to get everything lined up to do it. But she will be gone for about, I think she'll have to serve about 9-10 months of that. And then the rest, she'll be at home and supervised probably for the rest of her life, which, when she gets home, she may end her own. God, I hope not, but you never know. You never know. So anyway, we're going to bid farewell to this one. And we are going to come now to the Brian Kohlberg case. Now, I have not followed this case a whole lot. I just haven't. We've had other cases. Exactly what I was thinking. She has a year to figure out what she's going to do. But over to Brian Kohlberger. He's the one that unalived college students, if I'm correct. But what caught my eye, and of course, I have permission to share this with Court TV.
Some unknown reason, those four were chosen.
The new reason why those four were chosen, as he said.
Chosen as victims, chosen by a cold-blooded killer. Here's the story. Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee were four friends living together in an off-campus house at the University of Idaho. They worked hard and were all flourishing as students and having the times of their lives. They were popular, and their house was actually known as a gathering spot for fellow students. All of that tragically ended in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. Those four students were stabbed to death inside their home. The brutal crime shook the community and touched the nation. It set off an intense manhunt for a killer. Students were afraid to be alone on campus, and some of them never came back. Investigators from the Moscow Police Department joined forces with the Idaho State Police and the FBI. They followed every lead, every tip, and every piece of evidence. That investigation took them across the country to Pennsylvania and led them to this man, a grad student at a neighboring university in Pullman, Washington. This accused mass killer has denied all the allegations and claims to have an alibi. That last line, claims to have an alibi. Some big developments as to that alibi. Take a look at this. This is a motion filed by prosecutors, by the state of Idaho, by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney, respectfully moves the court in limine for an order prohibiting the defendant from presenting any evidence, whether by direct or cross-examination, in support of any claimed alibi other than from the defendant himself. Yeah, they're not buying the alibi. And they don't want the defendant to be able to present that alibi through all these other witnesses. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation. What is the suspect's alibi? Right? That's important. What's his alibi? Got to figure out what it is before you can figure out how they can potentially prove it. Joining us, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas and former homicide detective, host of The Interview Room with Chris McDonough. It is, of course, Chris McDonough. I want to do this, guys. Before we get into it, I want to sort of lay a little bit of the foundation of some of the things we know about this alleged alibi. Let's take a look. The alibi for the accused Idaho student's killer is that while four college students were murdered in the early morning hours, he was out for an innocent joyride. Defense attorneys call their client an avid runner and hiker, claiming he often took drives in the countryside late at night and in the early morning hours to enjoy the moon and stars. The accused killer's filing says that once school started, his hiking decreased and his drives increased. His attorneys plan to present cell phone data and photos of the night sky that show he was in the countryside on several occasions. The defense says their client's cell phone was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. So they say the car captured on video along the Moscow.
Stabbings are so much more up close personal than a lead shooter, by far. So I'm surprised, that he would, other than the reason it's quieter, supposedly, To me, it'd be slower.
Pullman Highway near Floyd's cannabis shop could not be his. Floyd's cannabis shop is off State Route 270, the main route into Moscow from Pullman, Washington. His alibi does not confirm or deny that other surveillance videos of the white Elantra in Moscow is him.
All right, Chris, what are your thoughts when it comes to this alleged alibi? You know, there's more than one way to look at a case, look at the evidence, and I think you have to evaluate the evidence of this so-called alibi.
Yeah, absolutely, Vinny. And I think that's what the prosecution is asking for here. If he's going to present this type of evidence that, he was someplace else, he didn't have the means to accomplish the murders or anything like that, and the allegations are that he could have, well, then what they're asking for in this motion is, well, great, give us the investigative tools to verify all the things that he's saying. And that's what's sitting in the court right now in the judge's chambers to make that decision.
And what are your thoughts, Chris, about what type of evidence other than him could be used to prove this alibi? If it was if someone is normally not at the scene of the crime, I mean, how can they prove where they are if you're by yourself?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, Vinny. And I think the most compelling evidence could be some of the phone evidence, a digital footprint of some sort. However, if the defense is going to present photographs of night sky and that kind of stuff, remember, all of those photographs also have a stamp on the back, or, through digital technology, you're going to know exactly when that photo was taken.
Okay, Cody, we know you were on the case.
That's called metadata. I love this arm, but I sometimes struggle finding a sweet spot for the microphone so I can type at the same time. It's the low ride mic.
And out in Idaho, and you were at the park where this alibi is. What did you find?
Well, that's exactly right, Vinny. And one thing to note about this entire area of Pullman, Moscow, where the park is, where he says his alibi was at, is that it's all in relative close proximity. Well, Wye County Park was only about 30 minutes, 27-ish minutes from the apartment where he lived on Washington State's campus in Pullman, and about 40 minutes from Moscow. Now, one thing about this drive, it was probably, of course, I went out there at night to get the full feel of what his alibi would have been with the stargazing and all of that. It was probably one of the darkest, most unpopulated drives I've ever taken. I mean, there was no street lights, there were no street cameras that I could see. And to get down to where the actual gate of the park was, it took about 7 miles of gravel dirt road off the main road to go down, weaving into the valley near the river where the park is. But one thing about the park that I noticed once I got there was the gate was closed. That's a crucial piece of information that goes along with his alibi. Take a look at me when I was down at the park. He says during the window of time that the murders occurred, he was out driving around simply stargazing, specifically ending up right here at what he calls one of his favorite parks in his alibi, Wye County Park. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with coming to a public park, doing what you want to do, stargazing included. That's what they're here for people's leisure in the community. But one caveat about this park in particular, it closes once the sun goes down. It doesn't reopen until 7 a.m. And if you pan over here to the left, it's gated, and that gate is closed. No cars coming in.
So that's interesting. I didn't know that about this case. I heard he had gone stargazing, but this evidence is not something
And no cars coming out. So according to Brian Koberger's alibi, he says he was here during the window of time that the murders occurred. Now, we know those murders occurred between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Now, how is it that he could be out here at those times if this park is closed?
Now, he could be sitting where you are. He could be sitting right there. You turn off your car lights and look up, and then you're going to see stars out there.
I'd say his alibi is untruthful, but it does get a little muddy once you throw that crucial piece of information in here about Wye County Park. Now, of course, Vinny, that does throw a wrench into his story. The gate is closed. The park closes at sundown. And of course, there's regional things. People out in Idaho, it's a mountain town, lots of nature. you know, when you grow up, there's parks nearby. You might know the ins and outs, how you could sneak in and go stargaze or do whatever you want to do. But again, just based on the facts that we know, that definitely throws a wrench in his story.
It's also a bizarre time. And I think, Chris, another important factor here for this alleged stargazing trip would be the weather. My understanding was that the weather was not great. It wasn't really a stargazing night. They may have evidence to the contrary, but I think that's a big piece of it. And being able to actually get into the park, probably an important piece of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, Cody's report is outstanding. He's not only going to be up against that, but there's a technology called Gladiator that the CAS team that the FBI use. And if they're going to just rely on just digital footprint like the phone, they're going to be coming up against this software that you'll hear about. I'm sure of it in testimony in trial.
Yeah, and I think another important factor here is going to be his phone evidence. And our understanding is that the phone is turned off at a certain time. If you're going stargazing and you're taking pictures, you got GPS and everything else, you're going to need to have that phone on. So I don't know if there's another way, Chris, to explain a phone seemingly being off during hours. Could it be in some other mode if you're not hitting, maybe if you're not getting any cell signal?
The only other mode it could possibly be in is airplane, right? Airplane mode, right? Where it will shut off the signal, you know, kicking out. But if he's taking photographs again, you know, that phone's lit. It's on. So he's going to have to explain that problem.
Cody, did you notice your cell signal when you got around there? Was that a problem for you? Obviously, you may not have the same carrier, but how about your experience there?
Benny, I was just thinking about it as you said it, because as I was, you know, explaining going down that 7-mile long gravel road, as I got closer and closer to the entrance, my phone signal dropped. And I'm just glad I was paying attention to the turns that I was making out there at night. So that is something that his defense can bring in as far as cell signal dropping and picking up on the cell phone towers. But my phone cell signal definitely did drop when I was going deeper and deeper into the mountain valley near that entrance.
All right, so when you're driving we just saw the highway there.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a problem for you, the highway? Because you're using you're not from there, right? Are you using GPS to get to the location?
Absolutely, I'm using GPS, and it wasn't a problem on the highway, and it wasn't a problem those first few miles once I turned off the main road. But as I got closer and closer, and I'm looking at the GPS read, 12 more minutes, 9 more minutes, 7 more minutes. Then I noticed on my phone, no signal at the top. So again, like it was still showing me where to go, but if I were to refresh and try to start over, it was done. So luckily I was paying attention, but again, cell phone signal definitely did drop as I got closer to that front gate of that park.
Yeah, let me ask you one more question, Cody, about that trip. Was it a little creepy? Was it a little scary in the dark being in that area? Because you're by yourself, right? You're not with someone. I'd be freaking out, but this is his alibi is that he did this all the time.
Absolutely, Vinny. You might wonder why I took that video from inside the car at the beginning, at the entrance to that park. As you're going down this gravel road, there's field on both sides, cornfield or wheat or whatever it was. I didn't know what it was, but a big giant mass of field, acres upon acres, where you couldn't see anything. There's no cars going or coming. It's just me on this one road by myself. So, and that was around 9:30, 10 o'clock that night when I went. I can only imagine at some point between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. out there by myself just for the sake of stargazing. So definitely a creepy vibe once I was going down that road.
Chris, 0 to 10, how plausible do you think, just the notion that in the middle of the night, he's driving around by himself in a place where there's nobody else and he's just looking at stars?
I'm going to go with a 1 or 2. That's a plausible alibi.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. Cody Thomas, always great to have your tremendous reporting. The viewers demand it, and we're so glad you're with us. Chris, stick around. Coming up next, does he have to testify?
I'm confused because if the defendant's alibi is that he was out driving around that night, I'm not sure what additional information his cell data could add.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder. Monica Simontelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
State of Idaho, by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney, respectfully moves the court in limine for an order prohibiting defendant from presenting any evidence, whether by direct or cross-examination, in support of any claimed alibi. Here's the big one: other than from the defendant himself. Meaning the prosecutor saying, listen, judge, if this guy is claiming an alibi and wants to argue alibi, he needs to get on the witness stand and tell the jury about his alibi and be cross-examined about it. That's what they want. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Does he have to testify? And there's 2 ways to look at this question. We're going to try to answer both of them. One, legally, in order to argue that he has an alibi, does he have to testify under these circumstances? And then how about to actually convince one or more jurors that he wasn't there? Does he have to testify? So 2 ways to look at this question. We're going to get the answers. So we've got some great attorneys with us. Joining us, the Idaho attorney who represented Chad. It's the way it's going to go.
So what do you guys think about this? Now, once again, I'm new to this case. I don't know a lot about this case. But what I will say is, yeah, I think he should testify. But someone is now going to say, oh, our bad. He's got mental health issues. So that's where we are with him. Let me see.
Thank you both. Just before I start showing you some videos, smelling motions, going after the ability of the state of Idaho to seek the death penalty in this case, and it appears it is connected to autism spectrum disorder. So putting the pieces together here brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, does the accused killer have autism spectrum disorder?
Does it matter?
And if so, I want to know what it is and what it means. Going to need some help for this one. Joining us, psychotherapist, author, host of Talking Live and the Bite Size podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, and former homicide detective, host of The Interview Room with Chris McDonough. Chris McDonough is with us. Thank you both. Just before I start showing you some videos of the suspect, can you give us a little bit of a definition here, Dr. Robbie, about what autism spectrum disorder is?
So autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability, and it impacts communication and social interactions. So often people with this disorder have difficulty with social interactions, making eye contact, communicating. It's very hard for them. And in some cases, they have very, very specific obsessions. They get very upset if their schedule is interfered with. They don't understand their own emotions very often, and it's hard for them to understand other people's emotions as well.
Thank you, Dr. Robbie. With that in mind, I want to show you, this is a traffic stop that was done at Washington State University, October 14th, 2022. The suspect is in the car. There's this back and forth with the officer. Let's watch.
Hello, I am Officer Langus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, then you run the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep. So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck in the intersection, you have to make a left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done?
You're not supposed to block an intersection like that in Washington. So just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation. And then then you're running a red light. So it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go. Because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turns, then you're blocking. So
yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing.
How much confusion do you really have, dude? Yeah.
Then they put on their light to turn. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No.
I feel like right before I made the turn, there was someone who made a right. They didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up. Not.
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody or you're going to run a red light. So, or you're going to be sitting in an intersection. There's not really a great option there.
So this is pretty much a rule across the nation. You do not enter an intersection unless you know you can clear the intersection before the red light, because you have then taken charge of said intersection. So for him, he should have waited, and if he had to sit through another light, you sit through another light, but you cannot block an intersection, and they do it all the time where I live. All the freaking time.
Yeah, I was just slightly into the crosswalk, so, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we
He needs to shut up. Doesn't matter where you're from. This is the rule here.
actually don't have crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines. If there's one white line and there's another one, if there's like a certain margin from which you can actually
You're talking yourself out of a warning, dude.
kind of place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't, when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah. 1 second.
Okay. Do you want to see one more first before we comment? Let's take a look at one more. One more. Now that was before the murders. This one is after the murders. You know, he's presumed innocent, but this is after the murders when he's driving back home to Pennsylvania with his father, gets stopped, I believe, in Indiana.
You were right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
I love how people think they can argue their way out of a ticket. You can't.
And we're standing.
What's WSU?
University, basically. In Wilson, Texas. That is Foxton area.
So okay, I'm having a hard time hearing it because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we're slightly clutching because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
We're driving. Well, almost a day.
Okay, let's bring everybody back in here. So, Dr. Robbie, are you seeing anything that would be consistent with autism spectrum disorder from his communications with law enforcement here?
No. Well, especially from the first interaction. I mean, usually when someone gets pulled over and they're, talking to a police officer about something that they did, they just basically say, I'm sorry, and it won't happen again. But we could see that Brian got into this obsessional back and forth, like he was really trying to process and make sense of this interaction. It was challenging for him. We could also see too the odd interaction, the eye contact wasn't so great, the rocking back and forth. Definitely there was a disconnect there. And I actually had the idea that Brian might be on the autistic spectrum. But again, this would have to be diagnosed by a psychologist who specializes in this or a psychiatrist. But I think we could see the oddity there, and it could indicate this disorder.
Yeah, Chris, another one of the oddities is he's in Indiana, driving from Washington State, which is far, far away. And the officer says, where are you going? To get some Thai food. Because if you want Thai food, you go to Indiana. Even if you're in Washington, you need to get to Indiana. What did you take away, Chris, when you watched this interaction? What do you take away from the suspect?
Well, I think the first thing, obviously to always understand is when you're making that type of contact on a busy freeway like that, the passenger seems to be answering a lot of the questions. So that kind of raises a red flag just for a second. But what law enforcement is looking for, obviously, if this, allegedly, if he's involved in this incident and you're going to throw up a diminished capacity defense, then they're going to look for the type of foreknowledge, that he was putting into motion, i.e., was he doing things that he knew were proper? Was he making good judgment? And I think both of these traffic stops tell us that he was in complete control of his capacities and, in fact, wanted to engage the officers. And the first went into a debate about whether or not he had crossed that line at the stop sign.
Unbelievable, right? Dr. Robbie, New York Times did some reporting on his earlier life, right? When he was in Pennsylvania growing up. I want to read that to you. Let's put it up. The new revelations about the suspect come from posts he made on an online forum in which he discussed his mental health struggles. I feel like an organic sack of meat with no self-worth, he wrote in 2011 when he was 16, adding later in the same post, as I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It's like I'm looking at a video game, but less. More that they wrote here. The words were posted on a forum website called Tapatalk, previously known as Youku, where the suspect commiserated with other users while suffering from a little understood neurological condition called visual snow, in which the person's vision is obscured by scattering dots, much like the static seen on an analog television. On the forum website, the suspect wrote that he saw a, quote, sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man when he looked at himself in the mirror and felt that he did not deserve to live. Nothing I do is enjoyable, he wrote. I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing. Can you relate? He said his absence of emotion had begun about the same time as his visual snow symptoms in September of 2009, and one friend recalled him constantly talking about his fuzzy vision. Is there any connection here? What are you hearing as this younger defendant is describing what he's going through?
I don't know about the fuzzy vision, but I think what we're seeing here is that Brian experienced a social disconnect. He did not feel connected to his family. And then we hear the other side. So autism spectrum can coexist with depression or anxiety. And what we're hearing is also the depression that Brian was experiencing and the low self-worth. And it seemed like they worked together. The disconnect, depression, not knowing how to feel more connected. He was aware of his inability to kind of connect and feel like a real person. And, people with autism spectrum aren't necessarily dangerous, same with mental health issues, but somehow the two of these together in an undiagnosed way seem to put him in this vulnerable place and maybe make him more homicidal in some ways.
Dr. Robbie Ludwig, thank you so much. Chris McDonough, thank you as well. Appreciate it. When we come back, will his alleged disorder keep him off death row? The defense.
We're going to talk about that now because that's something I think we could talk about. And we're starting to see a whole lot more of it. People are starting to use the fact that they have autistic disorder as a reasoning to get off or not. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to get something to click. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that is acceptable? Do you think that autism is a good defense in this situation? Do you think they should be able to use that as a defense? The autism spectrum disorder, I just think it's getting to the point everybody is using things to get off and not be held responsible or accountable. That's not what I want. To be held responsible or accountable for their actions. This is what's frustrating to me. I'm going to use a case that I know about. You have an old man. He went through 2 wars, spent almost 30 years in the military. And he has the early onset of dementia. And the family and he talked, and they decided to remove the weapons from the house. But they forgot one. And one day, it was the 4th of July, and there's fireworks going off, which triggers him into an extremely bad PTSD state. And he gets on the ground, crawls, because they had cameras in the house. And you see him crawling out the bedroom on the floor, military, crawling. And every time it goes off, he's doing this. And he crawls to the garage where there is a weapon. And as he's crawling back to the bedroom to hide, he comes across his wife. Hi, Amy. Welcome, love. And she startles him, and he shoots her, and she passes away. He was first found guilty, sentenced to life. They were able, however, to his attorneys fought it, and they were able to go back and get him into a situation where he's in a state hospital for the forensically insane or incompetent to withstand trial, where he has since passed away due to COVID. But PTSD, to me, especially in war veterans, is a better defense than being on the autistic or autism spectrum. I'm not minimalizing it. I know a lot of people who have children who are on the autism spectrum. And I am not minimalizing the severity it can be. It can be extremely severe. I've worked with some who were nonverbal and we taught sign language, so I'm aware of it. But I just wish there was more consistencies across the nation in the court systems that lay down a better boundary as we learn about some of these disorders that we didn't have 50, 60 years ago. I believe that post-traumatic stress disorder, I suffer from it. It can be debilitating. And some people dissociate and do things they don't even know they're doing. But if you're in that kind of a state, then there needs to be better medical help for you. What are y'all's opinion? Good question. Yes or no? Do you believe that they should accept the point that if he is on the he has the autism spectrum disorder or ASD, do you think that should change the charges or at least change what his sentencing could be? Should it be changed that they spend the rest of their life in prison at a mental hospital? That is a good point, Haley. It is not a planned attack. You don't cover it up. A true event, even with post-traumatic stress, it's a snap. It's a snap. You can't sit there and manipulate it because you pre-planned it. Totally agree with the statement. PTSD, however, are starting to be used more as a non-accepted responsibility. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. The frustrating thing is that there was a girl in my daughter's college who was self-diagnosing with PTSD and autistic spectrum disorder. Nobody diagnosed her, she did. And she did so to get accommodations in the college because she's an idiot and she wasn't doing her homework and she was failing. But I have seen a lot of people use autistic spectrum disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder to get benefits that they really don't need. i.e. one is so they can get a fake service dog, but that's another story. Yeah, Nicholas, that's good. That's true. Who helped Gypsy Blatchard rid of her mom had autism and he had low IQ. They didn't take it into account when he got life. No. And I think he should have been taken in account. There's a case here. Oh my God, there's a case here where a man, an older man, was intimately abusing his nephews and forcing them to have intimate interaction with children. They were children with other female children, and he was videotaping it. And this guy had such severe autism and his IQ was so low. They said that, and he was a grown man. He was like 19 physically. They charged him and gave him 20, 30 years, whatever, a long time. But the man who did it to him, because they didn't have evidence he intimately touched anybody, he just filmed the acts, got 5 years. And yes, so this is something that I think that our system is going to have to start dealing with. But I think that the system across the board needs to be a little more consistent. That is my argument, because depending on what county, what state, what judge, what court you have, depends on whether or not this is going to hold.
In this case, is spending a lot of time trying to take the death penalty off the table. And it happens in almost all death penalty trials that we cover. A lot of pretrial litigation trying to eliminate the death penalty. In the case of Lori Vallow Daybell, she was successful because of some things that the prosecution did there. Here they're making a bunch of arguments, and one of them has to do with this alleged autism spectrum disorder. We believe, everything is sealed, but we believe that that's one of them. And it brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, will his alleged disorder keep him off death row if convicted? Right? Obviously, if he's not convicted, not going to go to death row. But if he gets convicted, will this alleged disorder, autism spectrum disorder, keep him off of death row? And this question I'm looking at two ways also, because there's a motion that's been filed by the defense to strike the death penalty, and we believe this is the basis of it. That's one place. Or at the actual penalty phase of the trial, if convicted, could it be used as some sort of a mitigating factor that he suffers from autism spectrum disorder? So let's bring in our guests who are going to help us through all this. The Idaho attorney who represented Chad Daybell, John Pryor, is with us, and the trial attorney, former prosecutor and former Idaho Attorney General Dave Leroy is with us. One representing George Washington in the background. I see that, John. And I think I see Abe Lincoln behind you, Dave. That is awesome. Let me start here, Dave. Motion to strike the death penalty. If what they are filing, because it's under seal, is because he suffers from autism spectrum disorder, is that potentially a reason to have it taken off the table?
There's no basis to strike the death penalty in Idaho. When I was Idaho Attorney General in 1981, I successfully presented to the legislature, obtained the governor's signature on a law that eliminated the insanity defense in criminal cases in Idaho. We're now one of 4 states that do that. Our Idaho Supreme Court has held that to be constitutional. The United States Supreme Court refused to review it. Therefore, there's no basis to strike the death penalty at the trial level. Mental disease or defect is not automatically a defense. The prosecutor still must prove the mental elements of a crime, and first-degree murder, that would be premeditation. But nothing I perceive about autism is a basis to preclude automatically the ability to form an intent to premeditate. Back to the question. In terms of mental health, that can be presented at the penalty phase should there be a conviction and should the jury be considering the death penalty in mitigation. But again, that does not automatically mean that the death penalty should be taken off of the table. It simply means that mitigation evidence in the nature of autism could be presented. And in terms of these horrific crimes, having a social inability to relate precisely or comfortably seems to be a very thin defense and utterly unlikely to do anything like take the death penalty off the table.
John, you look like you're chomping at the bit there. Go ahead.
No, David hit it right on the head. The only thing I see with the trying to strike the death penalty is their defense, or Mr. Kohlberger's defense counsel, is trying to preserve the issue for appeal. They want to bring this up, and as David accurately reflected, I don't think that's going to happen, but they're trying to preserve an appealable issue down the line should Mr. Kohlberger get convicted. And again, David stated it earlier that it's a mitigation issue at the penalty phase, and that opens up a can of worms in my mind that brings the state in, bringing their own expert on this autism spectrum, and the defense bringing it on the autism spectrum. And I think David is absolutely correct. This is thin. This is very thin that they think that they're going to be able to use a behavioral issue to get Mr. Kohlberger off the death penalty.
How do you think a jury will react to it, John? How do you think it'll be received if they believe that he has autism spectrum disorder?
Well, that's why you pick 12 jurors and you try to get a wide spectrum of opinions on this thing, because what they're trying to do is catch one of them to show some sympathy for Mr. Kohlberger. Now, I think David addressed this earlier, that it's going to be very difficult to find anyone who's going to sympathize with the fact that 4 very young folks were brutally slaughtered in an apartment by this guy, and he has a behavioral issue, and that's why we should let him off the death penalty. This is a big mountain that these defense counsels are going to have to climb.
Yeah, Dave, what are your thoughts about, an Idaho jury? Looks like they're going to pick one out of Boise, how they would receive information like this, and whether there will be any sense of a sliver of sympathy to keep him from death row if they convict him.
Well, I think an Idaho jury will pay attention to all of the evidence in mitigation. These kinds of cases typically begin with a defense presentation of some kind of indignities that a young person has suffered in their youth, some kind of trauma that has left them physically impaired, some kind of events in life that have moved them in a negative way toward this dreadful crime that's happened. They'll listen, but whether there's any likelihood at all that this kind of material would be sufficiently compelling, I find very hard to believe.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I agree. And I think it would be almost anywhere. John Pryor, Dave Leroy, thank you so much. Expect future calls from us. Okay, every trial is about something. Even when there's overwhelming evidence pointing at the accused, there's always an issue. Here, if the judge allows all the evidence in, it'll be tough for the defense to raise a reasonable doubt because there may not be any. If that's the case, this case will be about one thing for the defense: keeping the accused off of death row. I'm Vinny Politan. We'll keep digging.
So I think that is a good point. I think that, so this may not be something that negates them or it just gets them off of death row. I think they're right. Let's check what you say. I wonder if he's been tested for this and the experts are lined up for this, because I don't think the judge will delay this trial. Again, I believe the defense is throwing stuff at the wall, and I don't disagree with you. That's what frustrates me, is because they sit here. I understand that diagnoses can happen later in life, but not all the time, and not with every criminal. Autism spectrum. He was a grad student, different end of the spectrum, I feel. I would say so. Now, I do know that someone told me that they no longer use the words Asperger. I didn't know that. I know somebody who they don't diagnose with Asperger's like that anymore. You guys, we only have 3 likes on record. Wait a minute. I need to make sure. I forgot I switched streams. Let me do this. Sorry, guys. I remember I switched streams. Let's see if yeah, that's what happened. I had to dump a stream because I got a copyright strike. So we're good. We got 7 likes in the pot for drawing for tonight and for the end of the month. So if you haven't done the I like, do the I liked. So yeah, that to me, I'm really tired of people using something like autism or any kind of post-traumatic stress disorder or any kind of mental illness labeling. They're using that to try to keep them from getting the death penalty, but there's been no prior diagnosis or questioning of it. Now, if there was a diagnosis prior to the event, then I'm okay with it. There's not a diagnosis to the prior of the event, I'm not okay with it. What do you guys think? Let me get me back over here. Oh, y'all, it's been a night. It's been a night. It's been a night. We started off talking about one what's the word I'm looking for? We started talking about one case and got snagged. It was a Cinematili trial, I believe. I believe it was a Cinematili trial. I could be wrong. Yeah. So anyway, we yeah. You know, if you truly have a mental illness, I am one of the sweetest, kindest people, and I will fight for your rights to be treated and be treated in a way of having respect and to acknowledge the fact that this is something that you personally had no control over. I'm good with that, but I'm not good with using it as pulling it out of the hat as an option to label someone just to get them off the death penalty. I said it. I don't care anymore. Or whatever. I really, really struggle so much with that. I just don't like it. I know everybody does it. I know that they have a right to have that done because it saves them. I don't know. What do y'all say? What do y'all think? I don't know. I just really struggle with a lot of the lawyering that goes on in hopes of saving people that should not be done. I'm such a bad person on that. I know. I'm trying to add some names in for the drawing, y'all. Yes. Okay. Lady in the Karen Reed trial who was like blaming stuff on her MS pissed me off so bad. You have it and you're like, bitch, please. Amy, I'm sorry you have MS. Yeah. And some people, well, I may have asthma, but asthma has not to the point that I'm disabled. Just because you have an illness does not mean it's to the point that it disables you or it impedes you in a way that affects the stupid ass decision that you made to kill somebody. I have fought, I'm a disability rights advocate person, and I have fought so much with people using illnesses to get stuff because they think it's cool, like a service dog that is not even a service dog, it's an emotional support dog. And it's not even that. They just want the piece of paper so they can go everywhere they want to go and take their dog, and it hurts other people because guess what? Their dog attacked my dog. Yes, I have a legit service dog. Yes, I am medically disabled. Yes, I have been through rigorous testing and in order to get this dog. It was not a just buy a pet and call it. This is a well-trained dog. And it just irritates me that, hi to me. Thank you so much, Seba. Thank you, ASMR on Cloud 9. Thank you. It is so frustrating, and what it does is it diminishes the ones that truly are struggling with it. Do we have people out there who commit a crime while in a mental state? Yes. It's Grandma on my other account, hands in yellow, hearts in red. Hi, Grandma. There are so many people out there who are legitimately suffering from these diagnoses that these attorneys are now using as a tool to try to get their client. Oh, thank you. Hello, it's Britt. Oh my God, thank you. You're the first of the night. Thank you. So it is, this is your 5th super live stream on this chat. Thank you. Well, not today, but on my channel. There's so many people out there that truly do have disabilities and truly do have mental situations where they do things that causes somebody to lose their life. Should they go away? Should they be in a place where they get medical attention? Yeah. Should they be in a place where they do not harm another person? Yeah. Should there be some confines? Yeah. But throwing them in a prison, I got stuff all over me. Throwing them in a prison is not the answer. That's what state do you live in? And honey, I'll send you the law, and I'm telling you, it's bullshit. Bullshit. Do you know how I know? I helped get a law passed. I asked somebody to help me get a law passed. And we got a law passed in Texas. If faking a service dog is $1,000 fine, 30 hours of community service with organizations that service disabled, not just with anybody. And that's bullshit. And I don't know who the owner of the company is. They're just terrified of having a lawsuit. But if the health department walks in there and someone has an ESA dog and you know it's an ESA dog, you can lose your ability to do that. If you ask them, is this a service animal? They say yes, and you say, we got 2 questions federally, because I work with this federally, you can ask. That's bullshit. Because there's 2 questions you ask. Is that a service dog? Yes. This little flea-bitten, nails overgrown, toothless Chihuahua is a service dog. Okay. Second, this is federal, Amy. I'm educating. Not mad. I'm educating. It pisses me off. And they're sitting there holding it and petting it. Well, first of all, service dogs are not to be held and petted. The law states federally they are to be on the ground, not being held. They're not allowed in baskets or carts. They're not allowed to be put in a little carry basket or a rolly basket. They're not allowed to be in a carrier. They're not allowed to be on that. All 4 on the floor. Always. You got that right. And the second question is, and this is federal law, look it up. What tasks does it provide to help you with your disability? I say, what tasks does it provide to mitigate your disability? There are several answers. 1, if it's a sight dog, you know that. 2, it's a hearing dog. 3, it's a mobility. So for like Parkinson's, you can't tell. I've gotten so many people kicked out of places. You're carrying a Chihuahua and they say, it's a mobility aid. And I'm like, pull out my ID where it says Disability Support Integration Specialist. And I'll sit there and say, you want to say that again? Well, it helps me stay balanced. I'm like, okay, that would be a large lab, large golden. That would be, oh, what's the one they use for Pulley Doberman? That could be a Great Dane. No. Oh, it's a medical alert dog. Okay. Then you just watch them. I don't get confronted that often. And let me tell you why. Hello, it's Britt. Because I walk in, I know what I'm doing. I walk in with confidence. I'm confident with my dog, and I have practiced my answer. If for you, it would be, you also can get a psychological service dog, okay? But that is somebody that truly does have post-traumatic stress disorder. Emotional support dogs are not trained animals. A service dog is a trained animal. Nope, they don't have to be labeled under the law. I might as well have fun with y'all tonight. Let me type it up. Under the Americans with Disability Act, coming from the ADA government, by the way, I actually train people on this. I actually have gone into businesses and trained management and corporate on these laws. Okay. So if you have post-traumatic stress, for example, your dog is trained. Like I have somebody has PTSD real bad and they go shopping. The dog walks in front of them. And if it sees a crowded aisle, it sits and that person waits because the claustrophobia in the crowd, they get panicky. It is trained to hop up on them and lick them when they get ready to dissociate it. That is a trained service dog. An emotional support animal has 0 training and cannot perform the task. I am pulling up the law for you guys. I'm pulling it up because I want you to see it for yourself. Because it's important. Because people don't believe me. Guess what? Here we go. Let's believe me now. Let me move this on this side. Okay. First of all, You have to be disabled. Amy, it cannot be expensive for you. There are organizations where you may pay $50 to $100 to do a background check and fill out the application. They cannot charge you for a pet. They cannot charge you animal fees. It's all right here. If you want to know the law, it's all right here, ada.gov. This is federal. I have fought so many apartments for people you would not believe. Physical or mental disability in no way diminishes a person's right to fully participate in all aspects of society. Yet, many people with physical or mental disabilities have been precluded from doing so because of discrimination. This goes through all of that, but you are declared disabled when your illness affects your ability to perform daily tasks for yourself. Okay? That is what people do not understand. I'm trying to get to the definition of disability right here. A physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities of an individual. A record of such impairment or being regarded as having such as a parent described in paragraph 3. No, ma'am. Amy, where do you live? In the United States, there are organizations for free that will train a dog. You have to pay an application fee. You may have to pay a background check, and you may have to pay for a hotel to stay a whole week while you get trained with that dog. Mine, I only paid $50 for the application fee. I will happily help you. Amy Evan goes over in Discord, private message me. We will get you a dog. Okay, so that is what basically disability means. In general, it must be a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities of an individual. You cannot dress yourself. You can't hear. You can't walk. You can't do a lot of those. Auxiliary aids. Let me do it this way. I'm going to make it easier. Sorry, I'm making it easier. I'm going to go to the very basic. It gets real nitty and gritty on this one, and I'm just cutting to the chase. But what people don't understand is I do this for a living, and I don't play. I don't mess. I don't play. Nope, they don't have to have a yard. Just there's some service dogs that are actually trained to go on concrete. You put a puppy pad down, they potty on that, you pick it up, you throw it away. Yep. I'm not kidding. Yep. You do not have to have it. Well, it keeps going. Let me show this page. What is a service animal? What does work or perform task mean? You may want the dog to have a yard, but right now, if you need it and you're in an apartment, and they can cater dogs to you versus your living style. Like my dog, she's a very low energy. She's not high energy. She's not play driven. She's not a border collie. Okay. Dog must be trained to take a specific action when needed to assist a person with a disability. For example, a person with diabetes may have a dog that is trained to alert them when the blood sugar reaches high or low. By the way, just FYI, this is old. Diabetic dogs are found to be only about 30-40% accurate at the time. So they don't train a lot of them. That is a nice example, but a wrong one. Epilepsy, this is a good one. A person which is depressed may have a dog that's trained to remind them to take their meds. A person who has epilepsy has a dog to train to detect onset of seizure and help the person remain safe during the seizure. They are not required to be professionally trained, but they are required to be trained to perform a task. And they must be able to be obedience trained to the point of being able passing a public access test. That is very vital. Right here. Do service animals have to wear a vest, patch, or special harness identifying them as a service animal? No. Under federal or state law, the ADA does not require to wear a vest, ID tag, or specific harness. If people come to you and they have a little ID badge that looks like a driver's license, they paid $55 for it online, that's a fake service dog. I have an ID. It's a digital one that shows my dog came from Service Dogs Inc. in Texas, just so they know if there's a situation where it was trained, or if I'm in an accident and I have nobody to take my dog, I can tell them it's set up as an emergency. They push the emergency, it comes up as a contact, and they will contact them. You are responsible for the full care and responsibility of the dog. You can bring them everywhere you go, including food and hotels and restaurants. Yes. But they are not ESAs. Service dogs are not allowed to be trained in public unless they are in a place that allows animals. For an example, Lowe's, Home Depot, Hobby Lobby, some places that do not have any food service. You cannot train a dog in public and call it an ADA service dog and it be allowed access. I'm not going to go through 100% of this. When can a service dog be excluded? Here you go. ADA does not require covered entities to modify policy procedures or if it would be fundamentally alter the nature of the goods, services, programs, activities provided in public. So say I want to go to a zoo and I have a service dog. I've gone to a zoo with my service dog, but if I want to do the one-on-one experience with the animals, I cannot take my service dog in with me while I'm holding a monkey, which I don't have to do because I have my own monkey. I have a monkey. But if it causes a safety issue to them or the dog, then you don't want to do it. If admitting the animal fundamentally alter the nature or services of the program, like what I said, you cannot take your dog in. Under control at all times, that is a very big one. Basically, my dog is hands-free. I have a leash around my waist that's connected to her. And she is also so trained that I can command her off leash. As long as I have command over her voice or physically, she is allowed. Are stores allowed? Generally, dogs must stay on the floor. The person must. This is a very old thing. It says carry the dog, for example. They're using diabetics. This needs to be updated. Churches, temples, and synagogues, religious institutions are exempt. Private homes are exempt. So anyway, I could go on forever and ever with this, but I want you to know that ESAs are not service dogs. If anybody has questioned about the ADA law, I go off on it. I get off on it. I love it. I love the challenge. I love teaching. Part of their training over here is done in public to make sure they behave at the same. Okay. Haley Mouse. Once an animal has reached, I hate either it's all of it or nothing. Once an animal has reached the point of obedience training to where they can behave in public and they have learned the task, then you can go in public by federal and state law with a trainer. You have to be a licensed trainer. You can't be an individual like me going in public and saying I'm training a dog. They have to be accredited trainer. So you may see some organization or some trainers in public with them, but they have to reach a certain point. You can't have a 2-month-old puppy walking around and say it's a service animal. They're breaking the federal law. There you go. ADA.gov. Oh, shoot. I did it wrong. ADA. My fingers aren't working. GOV. You'll find everything you need there. Now, they sometimes have in training on them when you see 2 people. When I got Sensei and we went out in public, she had in training on her because I was training to her and the trainer was there. Yes, that can happen, but they have to have already be able to pass a public access test. Now, a lot of places don't require that, but they have to be able to be publicly controlled and not be able to aggress another dog. If a dog aggresses them, they don't bite back. They don't poop or pee in public where they shouldn't be. A lot of times when you see 2 people, sometimes they're teaching the new handler, i.e. me. Yeah. That's correct. And what they can ask are 2 questions. Is it a service animal? Yes. What task is it trained to provide? Mobility. Just make sure your dog's mobility, meaning big enough. Now, Sensei can be also considered mobility because of my deafness. A lot of deaf people have Meniere's and also have balance issues. She has a hard harness that's a hard harness, kind of like a guide dog for the blind, but the handle stays up, doesn't lay down, and it's a shortened handle. So when I'm having balance issues and I know I'm having them, I can put that on her and I pull against her. I don't push down on her. I use her as a counterbalance. So I can just kind of tilt opposite of her and it keeps me up and narrow. It's training. And they may be from an organization like Guide Dogs for the Blind. They have organizations. Under those situations, it's fine. And they're probably, because they're with a trainer. I see so many individuals take their dogs at 2 months, 3 months, throw a little vest from Amazon on them and say they're training. And people go, oh, can I pet them? Oh, sure, here. I'm like, if you ask a dog in training, the person, if you can pet them and they say yes. Now, my dog is fully trained and I say no a lot of the time. However, I break that rule and I will tell them I'm breaking the rule. And I break the rule because sometimes you'll have a child who's 8, whatever, 10, and they go and they see my dog and they pull on their mommy. Mommy, we can't touch that dog. That's a dog that's helping somebody. My dog is not a guide dog for the blind or is there for my mobility. My dog is listening. So she can still listen and do her task while somebody is engaging with her. And I will sometimes, but I have a specific way. I have her face me. I have her sitting, looking at me. I tell the child and the mother, if she stands up, you can't pet her. She has to stay seated in order to be pet. So I'll have a treat. She's in a seated position. I show them where to pet on her back. I'll let them give 2 or 3 little pets, and then I break her, treat her, and we're done. But it's a training tool and a reward to that child for acknowledging that that was a working dog and they could not run up and attack it like everybody else does. Yep. Oh, SD is horrible. You have these young kids who have POTS. Now, I know a lot of people have it, but these kids, high school kids will get a dog and they dress them in costumes. They have these little vests on them that say, Don't take a picture of me, you prick. They will have wizardry stuff on them. They have all these funny sayings on me. $1 per pic or I won't lick. I've seen it all. YouTube, Google it. It's horrible. It's cringe-worthy that these people are doing this, and it makes legitimate people look bad. It is. It's like, okay, would you have your leg amputated so you can get a prosthetic to get attention? Then why would you invest thousands of dollars in a dog just to pass it off as a fake dog so you can travel with it? Hey, future! Am I not right? There are people who will pay for a puppy to train themselves for a service dog. Here's the logistical problem with that. Okay? You buy a puppy at 6-8 weeks old. It's going to be trying to be my service dog. Okay, let's see how that works. Because 1 out of 50 or 100 even make it through the screening process to even try to be a service dog as an adult dog. They may be 1 year old, but they get them they go through, they test their temperament, they see if they're skittish or fearful, they check and see if they're food aggressive, they see what drives them to get them. Are they treat trainable? Are they toy trainable? Do they have the potential to be a service dog at least 1 year old to 2 years old? And then you start the training and less than a third make it through. 2/3 wash out. So you were investing $2,000 to $3,000 in a puppy. And then you want to hire a trainer, $10,000 to $20,000 to train a dog minimally, for just minimally $10,000 to $20,000 to train a dog, only to discover it's not gonna work. The dog is not service dog material. When you can go to an organization, some of them do have a $5,000, or they may ask you to help fundraise. And that's something I've seen. So maybe you find an organization that say, okay, we would like for you, it's going to take 2 years to get a dog, and that's standard. During that 2 years, let's see if you can help us fundraise. And then you do fundraisers, because these dogs are expensive. It's expensive. Sensei was from Guide Dogs from the Blind. Your blind dogs are the Cadillac of service dogs, or no, the Rolls Royce of service dogs. And they are on average about $8,000 for a good trained, from bred, birthed, trained to in the hands of a blind person utilizing that dog, upwards of 80 grand. A hearing service dog is upwards of 30 to 50 grand. Sensei was born into, now there are organizations that breed their own dogs, and they do so very well. And they have a lot of them that wash out, and they place them in good homes. But Sensei was trained, and then after she got to a high level of her training, they discovered she hated water and would not walk through puddles, would guide around them. Well, that disorients the guide person, and they tried, but they couldn't break her of it. She hates water. So now they were going to wash her, but then they discovered she's very good with sound. She's impeccable. So she was sent to Austin, and an organization just outside of Austin, where they trained her to be my ears. This is $100,000+ dog, y'all. Paul Castle is a blind guide dog. Went looking for the dog's litter mate. The other 5 were not service animal material. One made it to be a hospital support dog. That's right. Ada, ADA-K-A-Y. My name, Google Ada K. Can one of my mods put a link up for her, please? I don't have my Discord open, and by the time, well, maybe I can. Let me see if I can. I got something from Toxic. Oh, by the way, for those of you who were just joining, Tanika was going to be live today, but she is ill, and so she will be on next week. There you go. There you go. Hey, C. Morales. So Tanika was going to be live with me tonight, but oh, here we go. I'll just run it. Make it easier. I forgot I had done it. My bad, y'all. So, please understand that when, there are a lot of fake out there, a lot of good ones, but there are a whole lot more fakes. Where I live, I only know of 2, maybe 3 real service dogs. And every time I don't take my dog into Walmart very much anymore. I call it Hellmart because multiple times she's been attacked or aggressed. I'm very careful of when and where I take my girl. Very careful to when and where I take. But you learn, and that's part of your training. And that's something that I learned how to handle in my training. So don't be afraid. If you truly need a service dog, understand they are dogs. They are not perfect. They are not robots. They will make mistakes, and you will learn how to handle those mistakes. If your trainers are good, they will train you well. You will do awesome. Yay! Thank you very much. Welcome, welcome. I see you. Welcome. Now you can private message me, and we will start talking. Okay. All right, guys, it is 9:00, and tomorrow we have court. We have Cemetilly, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday for sure, Karen Reed. I'm so excited. Okay, guys, let's do this. I'm going to share screen, and we're going to do the giveaway. Okay. Let me move. Let me get rid of the ADA law. Let me get everything moved. Which one am I sharing? Number 9. I'm going to share 3 first. So this one, we're going to draw. Hey, yay! Woohoo! Okay, I'll put you on the wheel. That was for the earlier live. This is for the current live. In the current live for the end of the month giveaway. I told everybody I would extend them to now. Okay, y'all ready for the spinner? This has everybody on it. Now, some of you are on it multiple times. It depends on how many times you gave a super chat, how many time that you commented, how many time, and it breaks down to an algorithm. All right, here we go. Here we go. The $50 gift card for the month, my dear. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate you guys so much. At the end of every month, I draw and I will send you a gift card. I say Starbucks, but if you don't want Starbucks, I'll get you whatever it is that you like. I'm trying to do the ones I can do online, the ones, so I can email it and you can just use it that way. But congratulations. Well, you are so welcome, hon. What we're going to do, what that is at the end of every live, I will sit there and for the I likes and draw one person and then you have 30 of them entered into the wheel because it gets too big otherwise. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you guys for joining me. I know I went off on the ADA law. Excuse me. Okay. So Cemetilly Monica Simatilli starts on tomorrow, 11 my time. And then we have Tuesday, all through the week, 11 our time, 11:30 our time. Sometimes they switch it to 11:30. So I switch it in the thing. So if you notice the time has been switching, it's because they're delaying it. It's supposed to be 9 o'clock their time. Then they switch it to 9:30. So I have to switch. Okay, everybody. You guys are awesome. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'm going to go home and go to bed. I get to sleep in tomorrow. But Tuesday is going to be a long, early day. And then next Sunday for sure will be Tanika, unless she's still sick, which I don't think she will be. And I pray she's not. Before you go, if you have not shared the live or subscribed, please do. I am struggling to break the 2,800. Every time I hit 2,800, where am I now? Let me look. I got to pull it up. Let me pull me up. Every time I go to the 2,800, it knocks me back. I drop anywhere from 14 to I dropped 40 one night. I think it's the algorithm or YouTube. So my goal by the 15th is to be at 3,000 subs. So please share, guys. It's important. I'm a very young channel and I need all the support I can get. And in that, I love every one of you. It's been happening to a few channels. Yes, it has been, and it's pissing me off. I hit 2,800 4 times in a week. Congrats. I think I subbed to yours, didn't I, love? I think I did. But it's very pissy that you get these big drops. I know some people will unsubscribe every once in a while. That's fine. I know there are people who subscribe only to have a nasty word. That's fine. But to drop the larger numbers is what's frustrating me. So I have my 1-year anniversary coming up. And I want to be able to be at 30,000 for that. I have my birthday, March 26. Would love to be at 3,000 for that. So I'm going to do a birthday bash all month. I will be giving different giveaways. But definitely out and about with Diane, I want you to throw your page up real quick in the comments so I can check and make sure that I am subscribed to that page. Please, love. Love her. I am subscribed to her. I subscribe to anybody on my channel that has a channel. I will sub to you. Just let me know what it is. You did above. Where? I don't see it. I see Discord with Haley Mouse, and that's it. What's the name of your channel? I'll pull it up. There we go. I'm already subscribed, babe. Woohoo! That's awesome. Now, I had somebody start taking some of my lives, editing them and putting them on their channel. Number one, there are some people who do that. Be forewarned about that out and about with Diane. They do it with the young ones especially. They like to, what I call clip content. So be forewarned. Also, I made an announcement the other night. I'm going to make the announcement tonight. From now on, I'm asking people not to bring up other content creators' names on my lives. If you are the content creator and you say something about you, that's fine. But what's happening is people are bringing up RA or Brandy or whomever, EDB or whatever. And it doesn't matter in what context they bring them up in. What's happening is it drops my viewers. Guys, I have 9 people looking at me right now. You bring up RA and it drops to 2 or 3 every single time. So if there's something going on their channel, something that's happening, that's an event or something that's way cool, and you want to share, go to Discord and private message me in Discord the information. I will check it out. And then if it's something that we can fit in the live, I will. If not, I will bring it up at the end of the live. I want to support them, but I don't want people bringing me up on their lives because of this, but they have like thousands following them, so it doesn't hurt them. Please understand, there's a lot of drama going on also on those channels, and I don't want to be a part of it. Yes, I don't like any of it, but I'm also asking that you respect me as a small channel, because when you say some other person's name, I lose content viewers. It hurts. It doesn't hurt them when you say my name because nobody comes over here. But I still don't want you doing it. So I am sorry to have to lay down that line. I had a live where I was like at 15, 20 people, and somebody said that somebody had a special guest on that live, and it was awesome. They had just came over from that live, and I went down to 8 people. And that hurt. Yes, there's always drama on YouTube, and it's not about drama. It's about respecting the content creators, respecting me and respecting them. So I hope that I've not run you away, but I will delete the comment if it comes up. If you put it in comments publicly for everybody to see, I will delete it. Now, I may go look at it later and then decide whether or not to bring it up, but I don't think it's fair to me for people to do that. I don't have a whole lot of rules over here. I hope y'all agree. I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty cool. As long as everybody's respectful and all that stuff, we're good over here. But that is a new rule. We just can't. Mods, if you see it, I want you to take it down. No questions asked. Just take the comment. Don't ban the person. Okay? Everybody, I love you. Appreciate you. Y'all have a great night. I will see you bright and early with a loaded cup of coffee tomorrow. Ready for more filthy smut. I hope they don't have any more of that stuff going on that channel. I really do, y'all. That court case, I don't want to hear any more about X-Pics and bodily fluids and all that. So if you want a smut case, come follow this one because it's a smut case. Okay. Good night. Blessings. Miguel. Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. I hope you have an awesome day. Till next time, take care.